Hey, everybody, and welcome to Keeping It Spiritually Simple. Hope everyone's doing well today. So before I introduce our lovely guest, I would just like for everyone to just allow the information to flow through, maybe marinate a little bit with it. We do appreciate your likes, your shares, and your comments. But this is really just information that you don't have to attach to it. We're just welcoming everyone here just to kind of broaden our wave of information and how it might help us here today in this now moment. So today my guest is lovely Salini, and my sister goddess. There's so many things I could say. She's an author, but I'll let her tell her a little bit about what's going on and some information that may be helpful to you today. And then I'll have links in the description. So if you want to know more about her background, her story, it'll all be there. Her courses, her book, etc. will all be in the links. So welcome, Salini.
Hi there. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. A little crispy here in DC, but it's all good.
Right in the heart of darkness, aren't you?
Oh, big time. I'm right at the Maryland, DC, Virginia. I mean, you know, you just 180 here, a few miles, and I'm in the hot spot of all of it. So, but I'm here to ground and anchor the energy. So it's all good. It's doing my duty.
Well, how is the energy today?
Today it's actually pretty good. Yesterday was good as well. It just kind of glided is how it felt to me. But as the day went on, at the nighttime, I kind of wished I was Rip Van Winkle and I could just drink something and go to sleep for 20 years and wake up and the world would be a new place. But yeah, it's all good.
Well, thank you for bringing me on.
Sure.
Just for new folks, I don't know who your following is, but like you said, I'm a healer, I'm an author, and a survivor of MK Ultra. I've healed myself naturally with Reiki and spiritual awakening, and I'm now in the process of healing others, deprogramming people, awakening people, speaking truth, and working on my second book, which is about mind control healing. I really think that's what has to happen. Yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having stolen elections like this if people were awakened from their mind control trance. I call it the traumatic trance in my book. So we can talk about that if you'd like to. And, I don't need to say too much about my history. I'm more concerned about what can we do to save planet Earth before it's too late.
Yeah. No, if you've got a couple things that you would like to say, I think we already know kind of the buzzwords to avoid. So, please share.
Well, I think first I'd like to do just a prayer and bring in the divine energy and the light and the goddesses and all that. So by the power vested in me, and please join me, Sandra, let us bring down the energies of truth, light, love, and healing. That's divine mothers, ascended masters, Reiki masters, healers of the emerald plane, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Michael, Saint Germain, and the angels of the violet flame, and the army of light, the liberation army of light that is endeavoring to work on this planet to heal and liberate us. We ask for you to enter into this sacred talk right now to bring truth and love to our speech and our hearts, and to heal everybody who listens to this broadcast so that they may know that we are marching towards awakening and unity on this planet, and that we're not going to settle for living in the matrix anymore. So by the power vested in me, as I spoke it, I created it, and as I see it and say it, it is manifested. Right now, all these things are manifesting. Thank you so much for being here. Namaste and amen.
Namaste. Thank you.
So maybe we talk a little bit about what's happening.
Sure. Let's go for it.
The election, not just the election, but the consciousness of this planet, and what's happening with the consciousness of this planet is we're experiencing the death of the matrix and the birth of the new. And so there's a tearing taking place between these two consciousnesses. and the earth itself, you know, is like separating. Like I feel further and further away from those who still, you know, join into this dark agenda that's going on, and more into the awakening and the light and the healing that I'm here to do. I almost can't even talk to those people anymore. And I suspect that we're going to see a very clear splitting of the timelines, and maybe actually we can see it happen. But I know that it's happening. I can feel that I'm ascending. I can feel it in my body, mind, and spirit. And it can be traumatic for people. It can be very traumatic, but this election really shows it. You know, it's like there's no way that some of these folks would get elected if there weren't still rigged elections. You could see very clearly that in Florida, that's a real election where people are expressing their real desires as it went completely red, which is exactly what happened in 2020. It would have been a completely red nation. So we're still experiencing the forces of darkness and oppression, but you can lift yourself out of it by doing your spiritual practices and going forward into your own personal divinity, no matter what it is that's happening in the world. What do you think about that?
Well, I would have to agree. I think, you know, I was saying in one of my videos this morning that, you know, if you decided to vote, you voted, and then you have to let it go and let others, you know, just do what they're going to do. And regardless if we got all red or all blue, we're seeing the stats say that there's a lot of change occurring in this very moment. But then you're also seeing some of the holding back of that. So you know that there's some strings attached to a lot of things. But I can either focus in on that, or I can focus in on, I did my part at that moment in time, and now I move forward to this now moment and let the rest be in the divine, whatever it's got to be in.
Well, that makes sense. You know, I mean, what else can we do?
Yeah.
You know, Sandra, I mean, voting is still allowed and it's still happening, and there are still places where it's real, which I witnessed here in Florida. I mean, living in California most of my life, everything's rigged, everything's communist, you know, you don't have any freedom there. But, and you have a leader that's openly communist and openly sexual abuser. So everybody knows all that information. There's no way that he would have been legitimately elected because he's despised. Whereas here in Florida, which is an authentic election, you know, I went in and voted, and I saw my vote go in and be counted in front of me. That the machine counted it right there in front of me and showed it to me. Your vote has just been counted, and then it spits out a receipt, which I don't get to keep, but I could see a long receipt of all the names of people who had voted. It was coming out in a line, so they're going to match that with the results. And so it was a legitimate red wave here, because that's really the sentiment that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's like, what can you do when people are still deeply seated in the traumatic trance? And that is something I would like to discuss.
Please.
Yeah, we live in a nation that's very entranced, and it's entranced through pharmaceuticals. It's entranced through the media. It's entranced through trauma, and it's entranced through various forms of mind control, like in the television. And now we're seeing big tech has gone headlong into controlled reporting and controlled things on the internet, so that we can't even talk about the truth there. I mean, we can talk, you and me right here, but I've just been censored again, you know, they took down my YouTube channel. And, you know, I'm a fierce truth speaker. So even though I'm not very famous and I'm not, you know, dangerous to anybody, I am a divine mother with divine power who speaks truth. This is a very powerful force. When you put forth truth with love and truth with healing, and coming from the divine feminine perspective, it's going to break through the lie. So that can be the only reason why they've come down so hard on the women. I've noticed that the male speakers are not being as discriminated against as the female speakers. So what's that all about? Well, it's about that we are the ones who are bringing the healing. We are the ones that bringing the real divine mother energy into this paradigm, and it's going to change the paradigm. You know, a good parallel would probably be something like Falun Gong in China.
Mm-hmm.
Falun Gong is like the Reiki of China. It's a belief system where they meditate and they send energy out, and it's very positive and very high vibrational consciousness amongst the Falun Gong followers. And they have, you know, they used to go down to Tiananmen Square in large groups and focus on the government to make it more positive. So it's been outlawed, and they are hunting the Falun Gong followers, and they've been imprisoned, and most of them have been killed. So, you know, and they're not doing anything. They don't say anything. They just sit and meditate and have their hands up like this. What's so threatening about that? So they're completely silenced and controlled. And I mean, it's dangerous to even admit that you're a Falun Gong in China. This is what I see happening to the women. You know, the women here are, unless you're just, you're not spiritual. I mean, if you're just a political woman without any spirituality, you can talk. But those of us who are really spiritual, really powerful with divine energy and love are completely, you know, it's the bursting out of the goddess energy. And it just like, we're fighting this spiritual glass ceiling that is not visible. It's an energy ceiling. It's the patriarchal and alien controlled paradigm that is ending right now. And so we divine mothers are breaking through that glass spiritual ceiling. And I'll tell you, it's a very vigorous struggle that I've been up against to try to speak the truth in this controlled atmosphere. So I know I'm hitting the target, Sandra.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. And I think a lot, even though we know that there's been a lot of change, and the patriarchal ceiling is being broken, they still have to have the illusion that it's very strong. And so they will come after the female gender for sure, and try to silence that. Also, if they have access to technology, they can see who's going to be the powerhouses and who isn't, whether you're awake at this moment or not. And they can dish out pre-punishment, so to speak, before you get into your real power.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because in reality, the day I was born, they knew who I was. So they knew I was coming, and they know who all the star seeds are. They know who all the spiritual giants are. And those are the ones that are the most oppressed. And there's lots of them on the planet. You know, the Holy Mother Amachi, who is probably the most powerful divine mother figure on this planet, was very seriously abused as a child. And she's had over 200 attempts on her life, and they can't kill her because she's too advanced. You know, she's way up there. She's here to stay, to bring that divine energy. So, you know, people like Jesus, they had to kill, and Yeshua. And so when I entered into the planet, whatever it is I came here to do, it was like instant abuse the minute I landed on Earth. And that was throughout my entire childhood, to silence my gift. And when I look back on, now that I've like reversed engineered my programming, and it's like that some of the main messages were, you have nothing to offer, you're never going to amount to anything, no one will ever love you, you're horrendously ugly, and you're never going to do anything with your life. Well, why would they give me those kind of messages? It's the opposite of who I am. I'm powerful, I'm divine, I'm capable, I have a lot to offer, and I'm doing it in spite of the programming. So when you get that kind of programming, you have to reverse it and look at it. And it's like, you know, what's really going on here? Why is it you're trying to herd us over into this one category? Because in reality, we belong in the wholeness of life. So, you know, leaving California was like another awakening. I mean, there's so much mind control there that people who live there don't even realize it. I was born and raised in Silicon Valley, San Jose. And, you know, I spent my whole life, with the exception of a few years where I lived outside of the country, in California. And you can feel the oppression. And a perfect example is one of my daughters just moved out of California, and she said that the minute she left, like she was feeling, she said, I feel dead inside. She lived in San Jose and she couldn't breathe. She said, I would wake up in the night and I couldn't breathe and I was dehydrated and I was constantly having chapped lips and feeling like she could barely get through the day. She said the minute she left, she's moved to Washington, everything just lightened up, and you know, she's living in a forest, and she said it was like now I feel moisture and I feel energy. And so, you know, whatever they're doing it with directed energy weaponry and mind control technology like HARP and things like that, which are being used on the people on a regular basis. And additionally, you know, if as a child from a Masonic family, everybody, all of the children in our family were targeted for MK Ultra. And one of them went into the intelligence agency, and there's been others in the past generations that went into intelligence. And now at this level, the 3-letter agencies have mastered technology to read your mind and to suppress it. They don't even have to talk to you. They don't need to knock on your door. They don't need to install something in your phone and your TV. They can just do it with energy frequencies. So this is why it's mandatory, and I'm writing about it, that people raise their frequency spiritually. Like you can conquer this with spiritual practices. Like that's why I'm still alive. That's why I didn't get killed when they tried to kill me, is that I've been doing spiritual practices since I was a child. And so I'm chanting and I'm, you know, meditating and I'm doing Reiki, and I became a Reiki master, and these things protect you.
Yes.
You know, I'm protected by this divine frequency, and I have angels around me, you know, they're protecting me. They let me know. And, you know, people that are a little more psychic than me tell me they can see my protection, my angels around me. You know, that's not my specialty, is being psychic. It's more like I feel the energy wherever I go. And so I don't always know which angels or what exactly is around me, but I just know they're there. And because as a child, when I was being abused, before I forgot who I was, when I would come back from a session of abuse, I thought they were just men sitting in the room. I could see them, but nobody else could see them. So I was like 2, 3, 4 years old, and there'd be a man sitting in the corner, or he'd come out of the closet. And I was scared of them. And I would always say, don't come near me. And they never would, until one day I was crying so hard that one of them reached me and he took my hand and he said, you're going to be okay. I'm going to be here to protect you. I don't know if that was Jesus. I don't know if it was my guardian angel. I don't know who it was, but I started to realize that there was this group of beings around me that were protecting me as a child, because they knew that I was being abused, which is obviously my initiation into my power. Because when you get abused like that, it teaches you how to deal with that kind of energy, and that, like, I know how to defeat the dark power. That's why they don't like me, you know. If they try to come near me, they're history off the planet. That's all there is to it. I've learned how to do that. But as a child, and I'm going through it, it's like, what's happening to me? You know, I was leaving my body on a regular basis. So they kept me grounded, and they took care of me. So what I'm saying to people is that you all have that. Every one of you is divine. Every one of you has a divine purpose and a divine blueprint that most people haven't even claimed. You know, so when they come to me, I walk them through their mind control, and I help them to claim their divine blueprint. I help them to do whatever it is they came to do. You didn't come here to be a slave. You didn't come here to be mind controlled. They're going to try. And, you know, entering this planet, this plane, means you're going to get the template inserted where they wipe your memory. So I didn't remember that I was divine. I didn't remember that I was abused. All that came later. I had all those memories later. So, you know, my goal for all of you that are listening, Sandra, and for everybody who comes to me, is to deprogram you and to unlock the mind control and the prison that they've put around your mind and body, so that you can't be divine. And that's why we're here right now. And the latest thing that I've been able to do is to remove the AI from people's bodies. Now I can now see the AI on people, and AI is what we're really fighting. It's not the fake press, you know, it's not the people we think it is. It's a much higher, it's the Borg, it's the hive mind. That they're trying to attach us all to the hive mind so that we're totally controlled. I mean, it's like Matrix. Do you watch the movie The Matrix?
I really haven't ever really watched them. Just
Oh
was
my
never drawn
God.
to them.
Oh, the first one, just the first one. I mean, you can watch them all if you want to, but in the first one, Neo they wake him up. You know, he gets kidnapped by the good guys and they say, we're going to forcefully awaken you, which they say later, we're sorry we had to do that to you, but you're too important. So he wakes up inside of a pod where he's attached all the way down his back to cords, which are then funneled into this giant machine. And he's energy. All of us are energy for this AI machine, unless you unplug from the matrix. And so I unplugged from the matrix and I got sick, just like Neo did. And once you do that, then you have to reclaim your power. And you have to deprogram your mind and be ready for your power. So, you know, it's like shocking. You know, I'm all of a sudden like, what the heck? You know, who am I? I'm a divine being, and so are you. And so is everybody listening. You have power. You have potential. You have the ability to defeat these beings. And that's why they're trying so hard to keep you silent. The next generation is going to be even more powerful, and the one after that. This is why they gave us the, you know what? This is why they're poisoning our bodies, our water, the air, everything. They try to stop the awakening. They try to stop the empowerment of all of humanity, because they knew 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago that we were coming. And if you look through literature, you're going to see that they knew exactly when they had to do this to stop the awakening, because it's happening right now. So they did it in 2020 to try to make sure that this awakening doesn't occur now, 2022, 2023. We're going into the awakening. And those people who choose to be enslaved will go down the 3D timeline, and you'll have to live it out in other lifetimes until you are ready to awaken. So that's what's going on here. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. But, you know, I want to go back to a couple things that came to mind when you were speaking. And one is, you know, the MK Ultra and being in the chair and being programmed, and then now realizing that these divine beings were there to protect you. So that the spirit was never broken. And I was visioning them working on you in your sleep to help reverse that so that you could still stay aligned, right? And so as you're talking about like this programming of you're not good enough, you're ugly, you're this, you're that. And I think some people listening might go, well, that's her case. You know, that's an extreme case, right? But if we look at everyday life, because as you know, I'm a realist, we go through this programming all the time as a child, right? As a child, don't do this, don't do that. No, your thought doesn't count. That doesn't matter. You don't have a say. I'm your parent. You're the child. Going into schooling, you know, you work really hard. You only get a C, and an A is supposed to be the best. Well, after a while, you get beat down because you can't quite get to that A, right? So basically, you're being told by family and society that you're stupid, right? So we go through all of these things, and then as adults, we don't realize that if we look back at the abundant amount of abuse that has actually occurred, even if you think you're from the nicest family, right? There are these things that happen within the family, within the community of school, church, play, friends, growing up, that this occurs repeatedly. Till what? We become adults and we hear somebody say, you're that doesn't matter in this meeting. Your thought doesn't matter. Your paper wasn't chosen. Your project wasn't chosen. You weren't included in our girl group or whatever. You know what I mean? So it triggers all of those things that are in that pre-programmed mind. So first off, I got teary-eyed with you talking there for a second about, you know, as a child being intentionally and deliberately trying to destroy this little innocent human before she could come into her full potential, but you didn't allow that to happen. So kudos to you and your dream team that helped with all of that. And I hear what you're saying, that we all have this We've all experienced it, and we all have this divine power. We just have to put everything aside, look at ourselves in the mirror, and really go in to the little bits of programming, even if we think we grew up semi-happy, right? But when we wake up and realize that there's all these, what I would have always called the invisible obstacle course, you think you're trekking along your way and boom, something happens. Why does it happen? Well, something's been invisibly set there, here, there, everywhere. It's a metaphor. And it becomes to a point in your life where it's like, I'm so divided and separated from who my authentic self is. Who the hell am I? What do I really like?
And that's
You
their
know?
goal. And that's where they
Yes.
put in all these distractions and
Yes.
video games and movies and TVs. And yeah, you don't have to be an MK Ultra like me to be MK Ultra.
Yeah.
Everybody's been MK Ultra. But they've been in MK Ultra very subtly instead of dramatically. And the reason why my case is relevant is that I'm here to show all of you that you can break the programming, that mine was more severe, and yet I broke it. And part of that is the blessing of being an Aquarius, because you just like, we're going to fight back. We are the warrior, the rebel, the one that will not be told what to do, because we're here to rebuild the world.
Yeah.
Aquarians have a specific task to heal humanity. That's what we do. So I have 5 planets in Aquarius, so it's like, you can't stop me. And I used to, and even though it was horrific, and I'm not going to minimize it because it was every day, and I was raped every night, and it was really constant for about 10 years, and then it just became the mind control without the sexual abuse. I was always standing up and saying, why are you doing this? Why are you acting this way? And you don't need to. And we can stop and we can love each other. I was saying stuff like that when I was 5 years old. My mom tells me that I was standing up to everyone. And of course, I don't remember that, but I had to, because there was violence, and there was a lot of violence involved. And so when you stand up for yourself, you begin to create an energy field around you of protection. And it's really that simple. It's like when I say no, you don't cross this boundary. It's a spell. It's a boundary. I'm saying no, and I'm creating the energy around me. Sometimes it's as simple as that. And then now we're out in the world, and they make it subtle on purpose so that you don't realize you're being mind controlled. And that's when you get the fake news, all that fake information. Like, perfect example of it is JFK's assassination. And the term conspiracy theorist was created during the investigation around his murder, to discredit anybody who was doing research, all the reporters and all the witnesses who were there. And there were hundreds of witnesses who were there. So there's all kinds of people that started to be called conspiracy theorists. This is a term that was invented by the CIA.
Yes.
So there is no such thing as a conspiracy theorist. There's only truth and people who are capable of perceiving it. So I want to make that very clear to your listeners, that you've been lied to, and pretty much everything that you were taught about history and about this world is a lie. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It's we truth speakers have come forward to liberate you. We're not here to batter you down. We're not here to make you uncomfortable. If it's uncomfortable, sorry, it's because we're breaking down that lie. And get over it. It's like, deal with it, face it, because it's the end result is freedom and liberation. And so the reality is that the assassination of our president was the beginning of the concerted effort to bring global dominance over all of humanity. So because he was so beloved the whole world over, there's a ritual that they perform called the death of a king, the murder of a king, and they did it publicly. And then they put out a fake information, same thing with 9/11, to shock everybody. That's a form of trauma. And all of us, I was alive to see that. And I remember I was in elementary school, and
As was I.
and they came in and told us, and it was very shocking. And of course, I didn't fully understand what was happening, but I can remember the feeling. And then later now, I feel very sad about it. And then when JFK Jr. supposedly died, we don't know if that's true. That was really hard for me because I kept hoping that we'd see him become the president. And so this showed me the trajectory of their control. So they started with this trauma episode, and then they built on that. And so if you remember, after 9/11, when Dick Cheney and the gang started those 7 wars, and they said, you know, we got to get the Arabs because they did 9/11 and blah, blah, blah. So there were no planes, by the way, in case you haven't figured that out. It was CGI. And his terminology was, you know, we're going to enforce shock and awe on everyone. And he tried to trademark shock and awe as like this was their method of controlling all of us, was we're going to shock you, shock and awe, shock and awe. That's a traumatic trance terminology. And this is what they do when you're being mind controlled, is they're traumatizing you to a state of shock and then awe, like, oh my God, what's happening? You know, so they were trying to enforce that on the entire population so that we would be easily controlled. So these were stages leading up to where we're at now, where they were, and then able to enforce this fake scam, you know, and because people have been conditioned for 100 years to believe that these are needed, and they're not. Nobody needs a jab. Once you realize that there's no such thing as the germ theory, and that we're all living in the terrain theory, which is that you have natural immunity that you're born with, you realize you don't need these. And so they had indoctrinated us for 100 years. They did the mind control thing, and then they were able to, all right, let's do it. And let's hit them with the big scam. And that was this. And there you see the division, like who fell for it and who didn't. And that's where we have the divide right now. And so as we move into the awakening, those who did not get it are going to go into the awakening. And some of those who did are going to wake up too. And I don't think they're condemned, you know, I don't think they're bad people. They're mind controlled. They're indoctrinated, and they're shocked and they're awed. And so I want to release them from this experience. I want to say to you, you don't need to live in the lie. You don't need to be shocked and traumatized and live in a trance. I'm here to tell you, you can be free. And when you're free, your power comes back to you and they can't do anything to you. So that's sort of in a nutshell, you know, how I'm writing it more extensively in the book. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And, you know, it's, it can be for many a very tough reality to swallow, that these things could be possible. And, you know, if you rewind the film and just look at 9/11 and just look at, let's just say an aircraft did hit the top of the building. Why would the building disintegrate all the way down in perfect order? Every engineered piece of steel, everything, nothing fell over and hit another building, right? They all disintegrated straight down. So if you just look at certain things, when you start to awaken to this possibility that you've been living a lie, you will start to see all the clues are there. And then it's okay, where do I fit in all of this, right? You know, and then hopefully you can reach out and find people that can help you work on that subconscious, that programming, just get you to open up the heart center more and have that override a lot of the programming that occurs. So yeah, there's a lot happening, but I think building up to yesterday here in the States, you can see the wave of some change going on here, and you'll see the areas that where you fully expected some change, where it stayed a certain color. So then, you know, again, there's some strings being pulled to these machines, you know, kind of thing. So I'm glad that you're writing the second book, because I think enough things have been said by other people as well as yourself. And so I think the time of awakening is becoming more ripe it's becoming more ripe where you can't deny what's in front of your face much longer. And if you do, that's on you. That's on you. We're not here to, at least I am not here to solicit or convert anyone. You can believe what you want, and I can believe what I want, and I can still say hello to you, shake your hand, or give you a hug. You know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's been painful to watch, especially having lived in California and being so mistreated there. And, you know, I lost my house in the manufactured fires, which are directed energy. It was a directed energy fire, and you could see the laser beams come down and burn the cars and everything in my neighborhood. So I lost my home there. And then they also closed my business, my healing practice in California. And I got hate mail that I was, you know, healing people with my hands, that I touched people. So I was contaminated, and, you know, and then one of my friends passed away, and all of my friends barred me from the funeral, even though she specifically requested that I conduct her funeral, because they're all jabbed and I'm not. So they all told me I was contaminated and I wasn't allowed to come to her funeral. That was heartbreaking to me. And that's when I knew, you know, I also was attacked in several stores. One of the managers in one of the stores took me and broke my phone in California, and I had my mask on, you know, and that's how crazy everybody is in California. And I just thought, well, what's happening here is not something I want to be a part of, you know. It's some kind of really dark evil taking over, to the point where regular people, it's like zombie apocalypse, are attacking their neighbors and friends and reporting them like they did in Nazi Germany. My neighbor reported there was a little girl, 6-year-old, having a birthday party. I don't know, she had 12 people over. They reported her, you know, and the police come, and she's 6 years old. It's like, really? Do we need to do things like this? So I didn't want to, that's a hive mind that's taking over. And once people they're going to go into the hive mind, depending on if you got the real thing.
Yeah.
So if you got the real thing, you're being taken into the Borg, and you won't be able to think independently anymore. I didn't want to live in that environment. I get to Florida, it's like freedom. And then I couldn't believe it. I mean, nobody ever asked me about masks or anything. And then when I asked a couple of people, what was it like for the lockdown? Because we're still in lockdown in California up until just maybe a month ago. And they said, oh, we didn't even, there wasn't anything going on. Nobody ever struggled with that. They were all like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, wow. And there's freedom here. There's an energy of freedom. And DeSantis has made it possible for people to be who they are. And yet it's a law-abiding state. We have incredible sheriffs here, and they're going to enforce the law. But they're also going to hold us to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You know, freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, the right to peacefully assemble. You know, and that goes to what happened January, you know, on a certain day in January with this many, I don't want to say it because I don't know if that's going to get you in trouble. That was a peaceful assembly, and that was agitators that were hired by the alphabet agencies that stormed the main building. And I know because I've talked to quite a few people who were there. One of my very best friends was there, and she filmed, you know, the inside of the building, and she said it was all fake. There was not a single, you know, T supporter. They were all BL and anti, and those people. And she could tell, you know, she filmed every one of them. And there was also a couple of murders that took place that were handled, the police did. So all of this is then blamed on us. And this is classic Satanism, is that whatever they do, they project out onto the good people. And they invert the dialogue, they invert the language, and they invert the experience. So supposedly we're the bad guys, but anybody who was there will tell you it was completely peaceful assembly. And there was over 1 million people there peacefully to support our real prez. And we need to be allowed to do that, you know. this is a free country, supposedly. So we need to be able to live by our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. We can do that in Florida, but you can't do it in Washington, D.C., can you?
Yes. And, for those of you who are listening, when it's being brought up about things that are going on in another state and you don't live in that state, you can't imagine it occurring because it's not occurring in your space. But when you watch things like The Handmaid's Tale and other movies that are out there, you can see where some of this can easily go. It's like you down in Florida can't imagine all the snowy winters up north if you've never experienced them, right? You just can't imagine the weather being different somewhere else.
I've lived
But
in the snow, so I know.
I'm just saying if you didn't. So a lot of people will go into denial when they hear stories like this because it's not happening in their hood. It's not happening in their area. But then, I still see in this tri-state area those who will not go out without and those who won't even go to public dining that are still living in this deep fear phobia. And so the only thing that I can do is just douse them with love and keep going, because again, that's whatever they have to go through. I'm not forced to do it. I don't do it. And I have my moon's in Aquarius, so whatever that's supposed to mean. But I've always been one of those people that I can see everything pretty damn clearly, and I don't necessarily have to rise to it, but I will rise quickly to defend an innocent.
Mhm.
And I work with children. I work with kids. They tell me stories. It's amazing. And I'm trying to work with the adults to help the children be able to expand even more, not just be able to have a safe haven when they come see me. I work with all different ages, but the kids I have the biggest kick, get the biggest kick out of, because they still have so much of their memories intact and they can tell these wonderful stories. But I don't want them to experience the programming of, well, that's weird, don't tell anybody else that. We're not able to express that in their own home domain, because then they're going to begin to feel like they're an outsider. And then they shut all this information down as if it's a playful imagination. They just have a very wild imagination.
And that's exactly how somebody gets programmed.
Yes. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Your situation is horrific. There's more out there that have experienced what you've experienced, but may not ever be able to talk about it. When you were saying that your mom was saying, when you're 5 and you're like, no, and you're trying to control and stop things and protect yourself. Of course, I don't want you to remember that, because if you look back and you saw you fought at 5, you're like, but then I got all the way up a couple decades to here. So I'm safe. I'm going to keep fighting. You know what I mean? It's like you remember that inner spirit to protect others, right, and saying, get off my turf, get out of my boundaries, get out of my head, physical wounds. I'm healing with myself. And because you have walked through this fire, this hellacious fire, and still kept your spiritual flame, lady, you are a walking, breathing mentor. And I get very teary-eyed just saying that because I can feel that energy. You are going to continue to help others. And what better person to do it who's experienced the most horrendous side of something? Because you become the better of the teachers. You are always the student, but you become a better teacher from having those experiences. And I'm so sorry that you had to experience them, but on a bigger realm, you had to experience them.
In order to be the person to guide others out of it, and especially the mind control, because what we're dealing with at a global level, like I said earlier, is globally orchestrated mind control for decades, so that people would, for centuries really, but decades, so that people would be ready to be overtaken. And if you've done any research with the dark forces, you'll see that they planned for this event that occurred with the fake for many, many decades to take over the world, to make us into a tyrannical, fascist, globally dominated planet. And so that's why I know that it's like, wow, I got picked to do this because I can walk people out of the mind control. I know how to do it. It's not as hard as you think, but you do have to go through, you do have to remember and maybe feel, the experience. It may not be as traumatic as mine was, but those moments when you get programmed are happening every day, like at school, and the lies that, like Columbus didn't discover America. And most people don't know, Columbus never even landed on America. He landed in the Caribbean islands where he took the indigenous people there as slaves. He became the first global slave trader, and that's why they wanted to celebrate him. He never even made it to the shores of Florida or South Carolina or anywhere. The person who officially discovered America was Leif Erikson, like 500 years before him. And I'm sure that there were others before that we don't know about. They think maybe the Chinese might have been here, or the Polynesians might have been here, and this is just a manufactured piece of history, like a lot of the other history that we got to get us to do certain things a certain way. Like to tell us, I was told in school that there are 7 basic foods. There's not 7 basic foods, but the meat and dairy industry talked the educational system into adding meat and dairy as 2 extra food groups, and that was to get people to buy more meat and dairy. So it was a financial corporate decision that they inserted into our educational agenda. So these are some of the ways that they mind control us. Another way is through religion. Now, I have clients who come out of cults, and, so they're mind control candidates. And some of them are from Jehovah's Witnesses. Some of them are from Mormons. Some of them are from these really horrendous Mormon cults that are polygamous. Some of them are from Muslim cults, and some of them are from gangs. I've had people from, the Chinese triads, from the gang members here in the United States, the different gangs. And these are people who have asked to be healed. I'm telling you right now, you're not going to get a judgment from me. If you have decided to heal, you can come to me, and if you're sincere, I'm going to know if you're not.
Yes.
I will work on you, because we are allowed to cross from dark to light, and that moment will happen whenever you're ready. You better do it fast, because the divine flash is coming. I did have a gang member come to me, and he had been killing people, he told me. So he confessed all that. And I don't know whether or not he's made it. He said he was going to try. And then I've told people this, I don't know if you ever heard me say it, that JFK's assassin became my client, and I worked with him, and he told me the entire story of what happened with JFK, and how the reason they didn't kill him was that he agreed to be mind controlled afterwards. He had been a key hitman for the guys at the top, the elites at the top. So they gave him permission to live if he submitted to a mind control program. And so he went through 6 months of trauma-based mind control and daily LSD until he couldn't remember anything, until I came along. I mean, he ended up in my office, and through what we used to do truth serum in this particular place that I worked, and I could see that he was mind controlled because he had no answers. When you question somebody under truth serum, they're going to tell you everything. His was like there were no answers at all. And so I said to him afterwards, I said, I think that there's been some kind of mind control, because you didn't even make any answers at all, and that never happens. And he said, I do think I was mind controlled. And I said, and then he admitted to me that he was a CIA hitman, and was working in the assassination squad. So he told me, think of the assassinations that happened in the 60s. And I said, are we talking about what I think we're talking about? He said, yes. And I said, so were you involved in the Kennedy assassination? And he said, yes. And that he was the man on the grassy knoll. Now, nobody gets any kudos for this. I mean, he was hysterical when he, after I gave him the mind control healing treatment, he remembered everything. And he's sobbing and crying and throwing up. And you don't have that reaction when you are telling a lie.
Yes.
So, and no, I couldn't tell anybody anyway, because he was alive and he was my client. So I had to wait until he passed away to be able to tell the story. But I gave him those treatments. He got better and he stayed sober until he passed away. And he did it because he fell in love. And this woman told him, if you don't get clean and sober, I'm going to leave you. And he said, I'll do anything. She's the love of my life. Tell me what to do. And so the bottom line is love heals. Because he was in love, he wanted to recover his soul. And to me, that was just so beautiful. I mean, I don't condone what he did, obviously, but anybody can make that choice. You can cross over to the light. You don't have to stay dark. So if you're listening and you're dark, do it now before the divine flash, because you're going to be toast when the divine flash comes. You're going to be pulverized. It's going to wipe the earth clean of dark people.
Yeah, I think there's many bridges currently here and being created so that people can walk through into their divine path. So thank you for creating a place of safety, a bridge of safety. And many of us healers, we have that code of ethics where what goes on in the room stays in the room, and it's not discussed out anywhere else, because it has a whole different meaning. And it's very sacred. So thank you for creating that safe haven for clients, and for being able to help people to pull them out of some of this program, some that they may not even be aware of how deep it goes, right?
And
then
that
a lot
may
of people
not have originally wanted to do it, but got
Right.
sucked in for different reasons, you know.
Well, a lot of people don't want to make change because, if they wake up and realize the religion they were raised in doesn't work for them, that means now they're saying, my parents didn't work for me, or this didn't work for me, and this whole life I've been living a lie. But people sometimes just don't want to face that. They don't want to face being different. So they'll just go on and be unhappy and miserable within their life, which dims your own light, because you have the choice of turning your light up or having it turned down. You give that permission slip out, not anybody else. But, I wanted to go back to something you were saying about, this, and many other frequencies that are out there that are being created. They make us sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when you're sick and tired, you don't have the energy to look at anything with clarity. You don't have the energy to stand up to something, because you're just hoping you're going to feel better at some point. And that sick and tired can become part of your 24-hour cycle, where you only have so much energy in the day because you have all these responsibilities to take care of. And you just don't want to face that and open that window up, or open Pandora's box up, or look at that side, because it's going to create action on your part to carry it through. And I know for myself, and I think I can speak for you, the sessions that are held based on customization to what the person can open up to, right? But they have to be fully compliant and ready to open the window up and say, let's go. And then they have the ability to say, stop, halt, can't do any more right now. And we're not here to pull you through it. You'll eventually get yourself through it. And we're here as strong pillars of light to assist with that. So I know we're running out of time, but is there anything else you would like to share with all of our listeners?
Yeah, I think I'm going to talk about this because it just happened, and I think it's a perfect example of what's going on. I don't think people understand what's going on here. We're in a time of harvest. This is the harvest season. God is harvesting souls for the awakening, but guess who else is harvesting souls? Lucifer. So, I'm not a traditional Christian, so this isn't a Bible thumping type of statement, but it's really important for you to understand that if they can get you to a certain state through this and through the mind control and through the chemicals and things that they're putting into our bodies, the food isn't safe to eat here right now. That then what can happen, and very few people know about this, but they can actually remove the soul from your body and take it. And they can loosen it. And that has to do with getting enough mercury in your body and some of these other chemicals. So it's an alchemical thing that they do where they remove the soul from the body. So that's another reason why people should never get this, and because it's definitely going to lead you to be harvested by Lucifer. So the person who just passed away, I want to tell this story because I've had verification of it. Aaron Carter, the singer who was the brother of Nick Carter, I'm not so certain he was actually murdered. I think that he was rescued. He was, taken by the Dark Ones as a child. His parents sold the two boys into the music industry, and they were made to sign contracts, and his money was given to his parents, so he never really got. He was waiting for $4 million that they owed him from Sony, and he has evidence that he's been stolen from. And so what I found out, and just before that, I watched the movie Slave Princess about Britney Spears and her conservatorship. And that is that there's a concerted effort to control all celebrities in a conservatorship, especially the younger ones who are taken in as children to be child stars. So that's happened to quite a few. And Aaron Carter, they tried to do it with him. They tried to do it with Amanda Bynes. They tried to do it with Randy Quaid, a whole lot of people. And some of them escaped and some of them didn't. So he was in the process of healing and having a spiritual awakening, which means that he would have been able to reveal details of the music industry and what they're doing to him. So they were about to harvest his soul. They didn't want him to be here anymore, or they didn't want him to get to the point where he would wake up and share. Like we see what happens, like with Prince was taken off the planet because he was writing a tell-all book. And I can tell you, I've had confirmation from several sources, my own guides, that he was rescued by the angels so that they couldn't do that. So I don't know how they did that. I don't know exactly how that's done. I don't know. They may have tried to kill him and the angels came in. But this is an example, folks, of spiritual warfare that we are experiencing on the planet right now. We are living in a battlefield. And this battlefield is not of this world. It's not of flesh. And I can see them. I can see them. They know that I can see them, which is why they tried to take me. I can see the archons. I can see the dark fallen angels, and I know when they're going to take someone. So I saw, I have angels around me who protected me, and I saw that the angels came and took him because he was a good soul. He was a really good soul, and he didn't deserve to be harvested. So I'm here to tell you, if you're trying even a little bit, the angels if they'll protect you, or if you're in danger of being harvested, they will rescue you. And so you need to be on your spiritual practices, folks. There's no messing around now. We're close to the divine flash. The dark ones are loose, and they're doing whatever it is that they can do before their day is done. So you need to be protecting yourself and meditating and doing, surrendering to God and taking refuge in God and asking God for protection, and you will be protected. It's definitely, it's your divine right to be loved and protected by God, but you have to ask for it and you have to work for it. You have to work for your light, your freedom, and your protection. You have to say it every day, and it doesn't just come. I mean, it's there, but if you're not asking for help and you're just kind of walking around in the dark, I think I'll try some drugs and alcohol, or maybe I'll do this or that, boom, they're going to take you, and then you got to come back and save your soul in another lifetime. So I know that this sounds dramatic, but this was one of the few that I was able to tell that that's what was happening with him, that it wasn't I don't know what happened to Whitney Houston and some of these other ones, but he made it to the light. He's in the light. I can see it. I can see someone's soul when they're ascending, if they're going to the dark or if they're going to the light. He went to the light.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few people that can strictly just do recreational drugs. Most of the young ones that get involved with it, they get taken down a pathway and gateways, and they can't get out of it, because that's the gateway where you have attachments that you have no idea, and you just think, oh, one day I'll master it and wake up and it'll be gone. You get in there deeper and deeper, and all the more reason to get assistance and help. And I would suggest that you listen to more of what Salini has to say, and get her book, and message her on her website. And if you can get a session, get it. I mean, you have everything to gain and you have everything to lose at the same time, meaning You have the negative crap that doesn't serve you to be released and let go back to the light. And you have the right to be your authentic, loving, light source self. And once you start seeing some of that loving, living, light source self, you will realize how many threads and cords have been connected to you, siphoning that from you. And so your real awakening is understanding that you are God's source light, and that you are willing to do everything that you possibly can to get yourself into that authentic original source space and move from there. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're finally understanding what it means to be imprisoned. And that's why I really urge people to watch Britney Spears' story, The Slave Princess, because it's a very clear description of how they took control of all of her energy, her work, her music. She was a cash cow for hundreds of people, and she wasn't even allowed to go to Starbucks and get a coffee. She had, they required that she wear an IUD, and they had a speaker in her room, so she wasn't allowed to have sex or anything.
Yes.
It's really, yeah, I mean, this is what the essence of energy harvesting is. And then when she's not useful anymore, they take them off the planet, like they did with Prince. He's too old now, so they just took him off, and they become more valuable when they've been taken off the planet. This is happening to all of you. You're being harvested. The day that you get a Social Security card is the moment they start harvesting you, because they sell that on the stock market. And that's the day you're born. So you're being harvested, and you need to unhook from the matrix and gather your own energy. And then it's yours to do with as you please. And you will be powerful. I promise you.
Well, Salini, thank you so much. It's a lot of information. And, you know, I want everyone just to listen to this. And if you need to, go back and listen to it again, and just ask your divine guardian self to allow the energy of this information to marinate through you. And if things resonate with you, then begin to open your mind and your heart and reach out to Salini, reach out to me if you'd like, for sessions to help you broaden even more and understand maybe some of the confusion that you might be going through, because it is your divine birthright to be the loving, living, original light, authentic self that you were born to be. And that's why a lot of us are here right now, to say, hello, dust it all off. You're here. Let's go. You don't know that you're a slave. Salini's absolutely correct. A lot of people are so enslaved, they have no idea, because it seems so normal. So much love to each and every one of you. Again, Salini, thank you. And,
my website is salini.love.
Salini.love, and everything will be in my description as well.
And my book is called Emerging from the Matrix, Healing Human Trauma and Ending Global Enslavement. And it will guide you. There's 22 steps in the back to guide you to freedom. Please take it and use it. It's for you.
So it has self-help tips in there, guys. Yeah. That's very important. It's not just a read that leaves you like, now what? It has self-help tips. Okay. So much love, everyone. Bye.